you so much, everyone, for permitting me to take up a little time on your agenda. Bobby graciously invited me to share some information with you about the Fair Housing Council. And I hope that after I have left you, you have an understanding of how the Fair Housing Council can be of service to you. I really encourage everyone in this meeting to consider using the Fair Housing Council as a resource. I just put in the chat some information about how you can learn more about us, our fairhousingwisconsin.com website. I put my personal email in the chat, and I strongly recommend following the Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council on Facebook and Twitter, where we post just ongoing news that relates to fair housing, healthy communities, building inclusive communities, and so forth.
If I could just add that one of the reasons that I invited Jessica to our Landlord Compact meeting is to speak with our landlords, property managers, because I do know that there's sometimes some apprehension when going to seek services that's, look to be maybe somewhat federal or connected, that you may look at the Fair Housing Council as being more punitive than anything else. And I just wanted to, Erica, I had opportunity to explain that that's really not the case, that it could work both ways. And with that being said, I'm not going to interrupt again, Erica.
That's okay. That's quite all right. Again, we are here to be a resource to the entire community. So the Metropolitan Milwaukee Fair Housing Council has been around since 1977. I'm the Director of Program Services for the Fair Housing Council. We are a private, nonprofit organization. So sometimes people think of us as a government entity, but we aren't. We're a private organization. We're membership based. And we do contract on occasion with government entities to enforce fair housing laws. We really do perceive of ourselves as a law enforcement agency. We enforce all the laws that pertain to fair housing, meaning civil rights in the housing market and the laws that prohibit discrimination specifically. Our mission is twofold. First, we work to combat illegal discrimination all over the state of Wisconsin, Metropolitan Milwaukee included. We have our headquarters here in Metro Milwaukee, of course, but we also have satellite offices in Madison and Appleton, and together we serve the whole state. So our mission is to combat illegal housing discrimination across the state and to help create and maintain racially and economically integrated neighborhoods. It's our position that integrated neighborhoods are those that are healthy and afford all people equal access to amenities that make for a really high quality of life. To support our mission, we have 4 core programs. We do have an enforcement program that takes complaints from people who have allegations of housing discrimination, not just in the rental market, but also the home sales market, mortgage lending, homeowners insurance, and so forth. And we do support our complainants in the process of achieving a legal remedy. What I want most to tell you about today is our outreach and education program. So we provide a lot of fair housing education to housing consumers and neighborhood groups and social service agencies, community-based organizations, and so forth. And we provide training and technical assistance to housing providers. We provide that technical assistance free over the telephone. You're welcome to contact me, and I'll put our toll-free statewide number in the chat as well. And you can contact us anytime and ask us questions about fair housing issues that you may be facing in the course of your work. We're not attorneys at the Fair Housing Council. We can't provide legal advice, but we can at least give callers a sense of what the law is and where people can turn for more information. We do trainings for rental housing providers on an ongoing basis. If you're interested in that kind of training, let me know and we can discuss our cost structure for that as well. But in essence, we feel it's in everyone's best interest to understand fair housing rights and responsibilities so that our communities are ones in which everyone has a fair shot to find some place safe to live, to do business safely, and so forth. We have a fair lending program that works to ensure that fair credit is available on an equal opportunity basis in all neighborhoods. And we also have an inclusive communities program that works to ensure that as our communities grow and develop, that they do so in ways that promote integration and don't include harmful patterns of illegal housing discrimination. The idea really is that people should have choices and that those choices shouldn't be restricted by things like race or disability, presence of children in someone's household, religion, and so forth. And to that end, let me just share really quickly with you a description of the laws we enforce. And if you want more information about these, please contact me and we can set up another time to talk about them. Can you all see a flyer called Fair Housing Laws Know Your Rights? Got it. So I just wanted to put this up here really quickly. We don't have time to really talk through it today, but I wanted to share it with you so you have a sense of the scope of fair housing laws and the sorts of issues the Fair Housing Council works on. You can see here the protected categories defined by the Federal Fair Housing Act on the left-hand side of the flyer, by our state open housing law in the middle. And then in the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County, we have some additional protected classes under local ordinances. I can share this flyer, Bobby, with you, and you can distribute it perhaps if you would like. But again, I just wanted to share it now to give you a sense of the issues we talk about.
Yeah, no problem. We could definitely send it out to everyone that tuned in via email.
Okay, great. I know you are short on time and I have a busy day ahead too. So that's really all I wanted to share. And again, I encourage everyone here to think of us as a resource. And if you have projects you're working on or questions that you'd like to bounce off someone, please never hesitate to contact us. If a fair housing presentation is of interest to any group you're part of, or a training for housing providers, I'd be really thrilled to talk about that as well. So again, thank you for this time on your agenda. I really appreciate your attention, and enjoy the rest of your meeting. I'm gonna hop off because I have another meeting to get to, but again, thank you.
Thank you, Erica, for your, we really appreciate it. And I'll be reaching out to you to get a little bit more information on the training for housing providers.
Sounds fantastic. Take care.
Bye now.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, PowerPoint. Okay, here we go. What's going on my screen? All right.
All right. Barb, can you just talk a little bit about, well, no, Barb doesn't have to talk a little bit about this one. Bobby can talk a little bit about this one. Guys, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and I know COVID is on the top of everybody's mind, but let's not forget, and I just really want to reinforce that this is also flu season. And flu, you can have flu and don't have COVID, and it's possible to have both of them. But this is just a friendly reminder from our friends from the City of Milwaukee Health Department that wearing a mask in public, washing your hands often, social distancing, covering your mouth when you cough, you know, with your elbow and maybe not just your hand, cleaning surfaces, disinfecting, and staying at home when possible and getting good rest are all ways to help you kind of cut down on the ability to contract the flu. Then I just really want to remind everyone, and you remind your tenants if possible, that, you know, we do have flu season going on here. And maybe this is also the opportunity for you guys to remember to, you know, take better care or pay more attention to some of the common spaces that you guys have in your apartment buildings or duplexes, you know, be it the hallways, elevator buttons, door handles that's used multiple times by multiple people.
Thank you, Bobby. All right, get to the nuisance properties here. Oh, okay, what happened? All right, let's see, it's gonna be out of my 2820 West Wells Street, calls for service. Do we have anybody from MPD?
Hi, Officer Rivera here.
Hi, how are you?
District 3 CPU, for those who don't know. 20 West Wells, I see 2 calls, a threat and a trouble subject.
Ken, I'm not sure if you're aware, but John Yang was not able to make it today, so we probably don't have a DNS report unless he sent it to you.
He did send it to me, and he has N/A next to this property. So I'm going to assume that means that there were no complaints or orders currently on 2820.
Okay.
Next property, please. (907) North 26th Street, calls for service.
I can't, before you get to that one, I'd just like to know, is there anyone on the call representing Barada? Okay, none so noted. Thank you.
Just so you know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's, yeah, oh, I'm sorry, for the 2820, yeah. I thought you were doing the 907.
Oh, yeah, we're going to go there. I just want for the record to show that there was no one here representing Barada or to give Barada an opportunity to talk since it's the last meeting of the year. Okay, we can go. I'm done, Kent.
No worries, Bobby. 907 North 26th Street, calls for service.
2 calls, subject of weapon and a fight.
No active DNS orders or complaints.
I'd like to ask a follow-up call to MPD, a question to MPD regarding this property. Has this property reached anything sort of like nuisance status because of the activities that's been going on the past 90 days or, really the past 90 days? I would like to know, have this property reached enough calls to be considered for a nuisance property? And I do want to state for the record that management is working with the Near West Side partners, and I know that management has made several calls to MPD themselves. So this is really not to say that management is not really doing reaching out, but still this is a concern in the community because of the shots fired, the fights, and ongoing incidents that seem to happen there.
So you can go as far back as a year to nuisance. In that time frame, yes, there probably is at some point enough to nuisance because we need 3 calls in 30 days. But that being said, we do work with them also. They do email us. They are calling. Most of the calls are done by their management. If they weren't calling it in, it was other like outsider people calling in, other people walking by the street seeing some issues, and or people inside the building calling a lot, then that's kind of when we go to nuisancing. But the first thing that we would do is do a call in and meet with the owner and have Captain Johnson talk to them and talk to them about the calls for service. But they are in pretty good contact with us regularly about their issues.
That Officer Wittenberg?
Yeah, that's Officer. Yep, Officer Whitberger. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, thank you, Officer Wittenberger. And I do understand. I just wanted to, for the record, to know and how are we moving forward with working with them. Thank you.
Hey, Bobby, Kurt Kasdorf Property Management, and here with Colin Miller. We're on the call too. You're happy to talk directly with us as well.
Yes. And as I indicated, I know that you guys have been doing a great job of making calls and communicating with District 3 and also keeping us in the loop. Just wanted to make sure that we don't lose sight of anything that needs to happen as far as maybe, tenants need to be removed or things of that nature. We just want to make sure that nothing happens and no one gets hurt in the community.
Yep, we like that too. And we have a couple of agenda items too whenever you guys are finished with your list on these properties.
All right, Kurt, why don't we just get through 917 and then we can address those. Okay, Kurt?
Sounds great.
All right. So 917 North 26th calls for service.
2 calls, both trouble with subjects.
And there are no current or any complaints with DNS. So Kurt, you had a couple of things you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, we could just really, just use some more help over here. We've been really struggling to, we really feel like to get the help that is needed to deal with some of these neighborhood issues. I think we reported last meeting, I've sold a building. We're not the owner anymore. Current owners have engaged us to manage it. So we're still here. My office is still here, but it's been real disruptive. And, the latest example is this Shanice Bell. And actually if you go one slide back, her car is right there in front of the 907. That's her white car. And we've had video of her drug dealing, and when we made several calls, and the police just weren't responding, and she literally came and tried to attack our office door. And so it's difficult to try to do our jobs when we don't feel like we're getting enough support. Now we have been emailing PO Officer Wittenberger, as she mentioned. I believe they did give her I mailed her a ticket, but nobody came and got any of the video footage. She was just moved down the street right in front of, I don't know if Brian Zimmerman, you've been aware of this, but she moved down across from your property.
I did just want to make the point about last time we talked about how 845 North 26 had some ties to these other properties in some of that gunplay that happened in August. And I just want to make sure we have the whole picture, and whatever has to be done is done in any one of these properties to keep the neighborhood safe.
Yeah, let me just get to that next. So I think that just the most recent issue has been, we have an active drug dealer, and we can't seem to get until this ticket was sent, or I guess until she was told to move along. But that was very difficult, having that go on for about a week. And then secondly, I would like some feedback on this drive-by shooting that was, I believe, in August. That went on. We haven't really heard anything yet to see if there's been any arrests, any prosecutions. Again, we have removed the gentleman that was shot at from our property. And so we just like some feedback on that. And then if there's anything else specifically we could do to work with the neighborhood as far as what you're seeing. I don't know what we could do about a drive-by shooting that happened a few months ago at this point.
So Kurt, Shanice Bell that you talk about, she's not a tenant, or is she a tenant?
She's a tenant about 5 years ago, but she's just decided to come back and conduct her business right in front of our property.
Okay.
So regarding the drug investigation, those are long-term investigations. Our drug unit is aware of it. I am giving them the information, but they don't need the video to do the search warrant. What they need is their eyes. So they're not in police cars. They're in unmarked cars that you wouldn't suspect to be police cars, and they're watching the hand-to-hands. That being said, mobile drug dealing is an issue throughout the whole city, and it's hard for us to get a handle on because while her vehicle does list to her, and we were able to send out notification to her about the mobile drug dealing, hard to get into cars. So while you're calling it in, just because you're calling in a drug dealing and giving her car description doesn't allow me to take her out of the car, search her car, all of that. We have to start from square one. So that initial stop, her plates register, are listed, and are good. So we have to find other reasons to stop her. That being said, if we see the drug dealing happen at that moment, we can stop her. But unfortunately, mobile drug dealing, or drug dealing in general, is a priority 2 level call for our dispatchers. So that being said, anything priority 1 would get immediate dispatch over the drug dealing. That's why it takes us longer to get there. District 3 is a lot of violent crime.
Are they going to hear me?
I'm sorry, what was that? So I mean, and the drug cars are aware of her, and we gave the information, but again, it's a longer term investigation. They're not just going to stop her and get the drugs that day. What they want is do a warrant on her house and to get where her ties are and that kind of stuff. Regarding the drive-by shooting in August, when she mentioned the subject with weapon, that's not that call. That's so when we do our calls for service, it's just for the last 30 days since the last meeting. I can look into the drive-by shooting and I can email you with an update. I wasn't told about any updates for that either, but I can email you and let you know about it.
I mean, we're here to do what we need to do for the neighborhood, and it was just we just felt it was very disruptive for us, both for tenants, you know, and even basically a contractor was kind of threatened because the guy went up to the car, got a couple bags of drugs, then walked across the street and dropped a bunch of them, then walked back and was picking them up like they were picking up the groceries, and was making sure our contractor knew, hey, you better not say anything, you know, don't. And so it, you know, then now how do I, you know, I'm going to start having trouble finding guys to work down here. So this kind of impacts our business and our ability to do our job.
Yeah, and we understand that, but then that's why we also suggest, I mean, I don't know if you have a security company, we can only attend to calls for service when we're getting called, which you are calling, and we appreciate that. But unfortunately, like I said, it's not the officer's choice about how the calls go. It's our dispatcher and our technical communications division, and how all that's prioritized. So that being said, we get sent when we get sent by the dispatcher.
Okay.
And also speaking on that, but that's why we always suggest having security at properties, because having some kind of armed security and or just a presence does help deter some of that happening around your own building. Because unfortunately MPD can't be security. We can only get called and sent by the dispatcher when we're able to.
Officer
Yeah,
Whitberger?
Yes?
What's that?
I'm sorry, could you copy me at Penfield on any updates with this situation? My security committee is very concerned about this. And now that we know there's a potential drug dealer there, we had another incident a couple of weeks ago. I'd really appreciate it if I could be in the loop on anything you're able to share.
Sure. Brian, do you have my
Unfortunately, I
email?
don't get real-time updates from the drug officers because it is classified.
Of course.
I usually get told the day there's a warrant at her house. That's usually when I get told at the end.
Yeah, or any other information along the way that you're able to share. If people get evicted, if they're in the prosecution stages, and maybe Jessica knows that, we really appreciate being in the loop as much as it's able to.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, I was trying to actually loop you in via email. I couldn't find your email for some reason. Would you mind shooting me an email today?
No problem. In fact, can I just share it with the group here quick for anybody that would?
Yes, please do. And then that was kind of number one on our agenda. Number two is we've had some real big issues with some hard, serious drug users at the 917 building. We had a tenant who was it was actually, we partnered with WCS and the Guest House of Milwaukee through the wraparound program. They brought someone in. It was a real bad situation. We got them out, but now they're gone, but they've been breaking into a first floor unit and basically trying to squat there. So we boarded up one of the first floor units, but they're trying to break in the side windows, and you know we catch evidence of this almost daily. So the owner has taken the action of trying to get the same security fob system and basically alarm system as on the 907 building. But until then, I just would request a little more of a presence around the 917 building, because we're basically getting trespassed on and vandalized on a quite regular basis.
Okay, again, Kurt, we definitely understand, and for most of us that have been in the neighborhood for as many years as we've had, again, the suggestion with having a security, at least now until certain things are resolved, is probably going to be the best solution for now. I know that they're not free. We get that. But again, it's not the first time. We've done it several times in the past. I know other people have done the same thing as far as hiring, whether it's Lucas or another type of a security company, to at least be on site initially for a couple weeks, just to try to deter that. So,
do you have a reference you could send over?
I'm telling you right now, as far as this neighborhood, because he's got other accounts here, Lucas is really the only person that I've ever used.
Okay.
I know that, if you give me 1 second here, I think I have, during the meeting here, I'm gonna look, I might have another company for you, Kurt, and that we use. Well, I'll just take a second here. Yep.
So that'd be real helpful. The best we can do, of course, is float it to the owner. In the past, when I've owned it, it just, unfortunately, I did have that once or twice. I just hired a guy to kind of hang out. It just wasn't cost effective, unfortunately. But I would definitely 100% we'll get on a call with the owner and suggest that temporarily. If you can fire over Lucas's info, that would be real helpful, or anybody else. We'll give it our best shot.
Sounds good, Kurt. Yeah, we'll have Bobby send that over to you. And if anybody else has a private security company that they're using, I wouldn't suggest Barada's company. That's just my opinion. I'm not telling you what to do. But if anybody else has a company for Kurt, please pass that information along.
And if anyone has a contact for Barada too, I've had a lot of trouble with some trash dumping from their tenants across the street at 907. And I'm trying to contact Barada. Does anyone have a contact that's been active? Anyone knows about?
Kurt, this is continuing to happen, that they're walking their garbage across again. I know that had been addressed before with Barada and it had stopped. This has started back again, or it never stopped, in your opinion?
It seemed like it stopped and then it started up again. And I sent a couple emails to the contacts I had that I haven't gotten a response yet. So helpful. It would be helpful if I could get some assistance of that.
I'll be sure to follow up. I'll be sure to follow up with you early next week with some contact from Barada, as well as with the security guys that Kip will provide.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you,
Bobby.
Kurt.
Thanks, Kurt. All right, next slide. Next one.
We can go to the next.
I'm sorry, before we finish with the Kasdorf properties, I just wanted to provide an update in regards to the shooting, Kurt, with your tenant that has been removed, who was the victim of that incident.
Okay.
He is still not showing up in the DA's office system, which means the case hasn't been referred to our office. Now, I don't have access to the police reports, and I know the district's going to look into it, but what that signals to me is that they might not have identified the shooter yet.
Okay, thanks for that update.
Thank you, Jessica. (2848) West Wisconsin, calls for service.
One call, battery. We did do a walkthrough with DNS recently.
Okay, DNS does have interior orders requiring permits to be pulled. Okay, I don't have any other detail on that, unless officer has anything more on what they found on the walkthrough.
No, we don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you. Next, please. (2841) West Highland Boulevard, calls for service.
3 calls, 911 abuse and an entry.
There are no.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last 2 calls. It was a 911 abuse, and what was the last 2?
3 calls for service consisting of 911 abuse and entry.
Okay.
No DNS complaints or orders at this time. Next property.
Did we have anyone on from Smart Assets that wanted to say anything about those calls? Okay, King, you can proceed.
Thank you. Next slide. 3110 West Wells, calls for service.
1 call, 911 abuse.
And no DNS orders or complaints currently. Next property. 835 North 23rd Street. Calls for service.
4 calls consisting of 911 abuse and a battery.
And DNS has fire inspection violations. Jessica, do you want to give us any update with meetings with Jamila Properties? Or Officer Wittenberger, whoever has any info?
So we did have a meeting with them in the beginning of October. We're still monitoring their calls, and I'm giving all the information to Captain Johnson for his recommendation. He's the one that chooses if properties go into nuisance. They did give us some updates on some of the properties and the tenants, and it sounds like some of the problem ones are getting relocated through their case managers, because there's some habitual callers that we're having and why we're always going to the property.
Yeah, it's definitely a very active fire department scene. And so actually, we have now purchased the Eisenberg Law Office's lot and vacant lot across the street from this 835 plus the house. So, and the house on the corner as well. And our tenant that is there says that she does call quite often of 835, just a lot of different types of things going on there. So lately I've been doing a drive-by there quite often in my rounds, and we've got, several people out there drinking. And I guess here last week we chased some people off one of our buildings since the fence is currently down because we were cutting trees in that up and down our staircases in the back of one of our locations. So there doesn't seem to be any change at 835, in if not in being worse than before, with just a bunch of activity and things like that going on. Is Karen with us?
Kayla, she is, and she would like to share her insights. Kayla?
Well, I was actually wondering if Karen Schwenke was with us on this meeting, because she has those properties across the street as well. Nope, doesn't look.
All those things into us too.
She does also?
Stuff.
Okay. Go ahead, Bobby.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that, guys. Kayla, if you are on still, this would be the opportunity to share some of your insights about what you just heard concerning the Jamila property of 835.
Okay.
Hey, so I guess she's not there now.
Oh, so she was on earlier?
Well, yeah, I was just chatting with her.
Trent, it looks like Kayla is here. I don't know if she's having audio issues, but Kayla, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Can anyone hear me?
Oh, now we can.
Okay, sorry. It was muted on my computer, but not on my cell phone, which is relatively confusing, but okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So yeah, to give a little bit of updates on 835, I know that October 1st, we had a meeting with MPD regarding some of our properties in the area, specifically 835. Since then, we've evicted 4 different units in the building. 112 was the most recent one that had some altercation issues, guest issues, more heavier activity. We have, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Dr. Ingrid Hicks, but I know that she is pretty involved speaking with Keith Stanley from near West Side, and I'll talk to him directly as well regarding issues in the building. From my communication with her, she hasn't reported anything as of recent, which is pretty much my go-to in that building. I have a caretaker there as well who reports, but I haven't gotten anything as of recently. I know that it was an issue throughout summer and even leading into October, middle to end of it as well. But in the past couple of weeks, from my understanding, it's been pretty quiet. So that's a little bit surprising to hear from Kent, but I'm happy to provide my information to anyone in the area that would need it. I know Karen has it and has called me directly in the past. I haven't gotten any calls from her recently. But I do have a gentleman that lives on 31st and Wells as well. And if there is anything ever going on, he'll run over and try to just get people off of the property. And then we send security as well, but there's only so much that security can do to the tenants outside besides try to shoo them away and try to figure out who they are and who they're associated with.
Kayla, if I heard you correctly, you have a caretaker, on-site caretaker at 835?
Yeah, we have an on-site caretaker, and then we have, she doesn't do any caretaking. She just is a tenant that is pretty involved in the community in general and knows Keith's family, who's communicated with him and then communicated with me as well. She emails me almost on like a daily to weekly basis, depending on what's going on. I've connected with her recently, and she said it's been pretty quiet. I know that there was an issue with someone breaking open one of our basement doors. That's the only thing I've heard in like the last 2 weeks for cause to be concerned. So I thought we were kind of heading in a better direction at that building after we evicted all of these people.
You have,
Okay, Kayla. One last question for me. Also, can you provide us at some point the days, times that your security is out and where they're supposed to be?
The what? I'm sorry?
No, I was saying, I believe you mentioned that you guys have security from time to time, and I would like to know if you could provide West Side Partners with the days and times that your security is out.
Well, they don't go at any specific time. So oftentimes, Jamela has roughly 90 properties, over 1,000 units, and we focus our time more so on areas that need the attention, which 835 has been one. But if they show up at a specific time, a lot of times they're paying attention to that. So if it's during the day, what I try to do is we have Clyde, who is a tenant of ours, who is a gentleman that is more intimidating, I would say. So we use him to just send him over and say, hey, clear people out. Obviously, if it's a bigger issue, we'll get security involved or MPD if needed. But if it's just a matter of loitering and drinking, that's usually where we try to just sue them out. If it's after hours, it gets sent to NOC. If it's specific to a tenant doing XYZ or causing issues or a suspected tenant, then it gets relayed to MPD, it gets relayed to my security, and we just kind of try to communicate that regarding. The most recent ones I can tell you are 315, 316, 104, and 112, which all of the tenants that were causing issues are gone from the unit. However, and I don't know if anyone has this information or not, but there's a gentleman that they refer to as Blue, which I know we talked to MPD a little bit about, that broke into one of our units that we were able to retrieve keys from, but he was causing some issues in Brookfield from what my understanding is too. I don't know if he's still in the area or not, but just an FYI to anyone in the near west side, that is a guy to look out for. That's why I don't have his name or anything like that. I just keep knowing as Blue.
Okay, thank you, Kayla. That was all I had.
Sure thing.
so Kayla, you have a gentleman in a wheelchair, a black gentleman in a wheelchair. Hard to tell what his age, probably 50s.
Okay.
He's been out there a few times, drinking out on the either on the ramp or out right on the sidewalk, and there just seems to be again. I just started really driving down this street last Wednesday when we closed on the properties, and so my information is only for the last 7 days, but there always seems to be a lot of loitering, not just people coming and going, but and not just somebody having a cigarette. There just seems to be a lot of people always hanging out in front of the building.
Oh, sure. I completely agree with you, Kent. If the weather's nice, they're out there. And it's been a struggle for years. Some of the tenants sit there, they're minding their own business, it's whatever, but we've always sort of, I've been with Jamila for a decade now, and for the last probably at least 7 years, we've had it to where there is no loitering allowed. You can see the no loitering sign in the picture.
Yeah.
We send notices to our tenants that specifically indicate, like, you are not allowed to be on our front stoop. Do not hang out outside of the building. We have 2 community rooms on the 2nd and 3rd floor that they can utilize the back alley, but it's not as fun as utilizing the front area because you don't get to see everything that's going on the street. So that's just something that has been a struggle and will probably always continue to be a struggle. We just have to continually shoo them out of there. And that's, beyond that, I really don't know what else I can do besides evict every single person that we find out there. And that's if we know who they are, because some of the time it could be someone's guest. And, having over 1,000 tenants, probably closer to 2,000, I don't know what every single person looks like unless I pull up their application information. And I think many landlords would probably agree with that.
No.
So I'm sorry.
So no different than really anybody else situation in a way, Kayla, is that, the presence of somebody in management being there consistently for a number of days in a row establishes, what your policies are, and somebody's there enforcing, to say that somebody has to have a security guard there 24/7. I don't think that is necessary. But initially, somebody who just drives by or comes by 5 minutes out of a 24-hour period doesn't really establish that, hey, we're not allowing people to hang out in front here anymore, and help that loitering move along. It's more like somebody.
Sure, but we've been informed by tenants that reside in the building that the loitering, the unauthorized occupants, the loitering inside of the building has subsided. So this is the first time I'm hearing that it's back up again. So I know that we had a nice weather week too, so that could have something to do with it. But I can send people out there, and I can have my employees drive by, and I can have them stop by when they're in the area. But we have how many other properties as well. So I can't have them there for hours and hours every day. The cost would be astronomical. I will continue to have them go out and continue to have them go through and talk to anyone that is on the porch and tell them they need to keep moving along. But this is not a problem just at 835 North 23rd Street. This is a problem within the near west side. This is a problem within the city of Milwaukee. And it's a problem that we talk about over and over and over again. And we do what we can to try to resolve it. But I can't have someone there all day long. Like to your statement, even having someone there for hours in a day is near impossible just to watch them. My security officer and no one's security officer can physically touch anyone, cannot detain anyone. They can call NPD to let people know that people are loitering, but I don't believe that that's something that they respond to either. And we've had the conversation many times. So it kind of gets to a point where I'll continue to do it, and I will have people on it when it becomes more of a relevant problem, but I'm not sure what else I can do beyond that, because they can't detain, they can't force anyone to give information. It becomes an issue that we don't really have a lot of say over, really.
Well, people hanging around versus public drinking, it could be a little different scenario. I mean, they're out there drinking. Look, I'm not going to say that, our properties are perfect. We have a problem at 2324 West Wisconsin because of the Quick Pick situation there with them selling beer, that they're always constantly on the wall. I probably shoo people off 10 or 12 times a day, but obviously for us, we're in a little different situation. But the bottom line or the point is, and again, I'm not trying to come down on Jamila. This is in a whole, everybody that has a loitering issue, it is still ownership and management's responsibility to take care of it. It just, in whatever manner that it takes to resolve the issue. And again, if it takes having somebody there as far as an on-site manager, when we have larger buildings, there should be on-site management. There should be somebody responsible, somebody that is working there during the day or whatever, that keeps an eye on those things, because they come in and out, or they're walking through the building doing other things. And certain buildings are going to be harder to manage than others because of where they're at, and like our building at 2324. But besides cameras and employees and myself, and sometimes security when the hotel was open, you know, that's what it took to keep the people from sitting out on the front steps all day. So
I worked in that building specifically myself personally for the first 4 or 5 years that I was with Jamela, and people would sit on the porch. I would walk out specifically, tell them to move, call security, and they ignored me often. So I get it. It is our responsibility to do it to some capacity, but we also only have a certain capacity. You know, my security officer would say, well, if you're not going to listen, we're going to detain you. And then, not dealing with District 3, but District 2 specifically said, if you do something like that again with your security officer, we will have your security officer arrested. And my security officer is less inclined to do anything in terms of detaining someone to try to get them off of property, where we used to do it. And it was never something that came up, and now it is. And it's just something that we can push and push and push. But I mean, I don't know what else I can do. I can try to block off part of the beginning of that building so that maybe it makes it less easy sticking something in the corner so that people can't like take chairs out there, or I don't know. I'm just trying to think of ideas to where blocking off without affecting DNS could assist at that location, because they have all of that area where you can just like stand and hang out, and that's exactly what they do. And I totally know, I agree. They'll open the garage door, they'll sit there with lawn chairs.
So Kayla, yeah, I mean, I get what you're trying to say, and again, for the building at 835 with really no neighbor influence, they are people who are either visiting or tenants at this location. Again, for me, obviously, I don't physically remove anybody, and so if people don't move off our porch or our steps after I've asked them nicely 2 times, I'm calling MUPD. They respond quickly. They send a couple officers and take care of, resolve the issue. This is what they're there for. And they're have a little more availability and time than MPD, obviously, right?
Okay.
So
no, that's helpful. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, utilize MUPD.
Yeah, I saw what Brian just sent too, and I just opened the link to that, and that sounds interesting. That's something I'd absolutely be interested in.
I was just sharing there's the electronic device we use at our school for anti-loitering. The thing is, it only works on people under like 25 years old. It's something with the hearing range, and it's been really effective for us, keeping the kids away from the school. Not sure what age range your problem folks are.
Yeah,
unfortunately, all 50 plus. But
yeah.
Maybe there's something else on the market that
Hey guys, I'd like to jump in. This is Kurt, Kessler Property Management. You know, I can just really identify with the struggles Kayla is having, and what we were told to do is post the legal signs about the no loitering. And again, just like Kayla mentioned, we work here. We're here all day, every day. We go out and shoo them away. You know, 20 minutes later, they're back. And so eventually, we're not in the Marquette district. So, and like Kayla mentioned, we can't forcibly, even if we had a security guard, they could sit there and yell at them, and they don't have to move, and they're not, and they weren't moving. So what we did is we called the police this summer, and for whatever reason, and maybe things have changed, they said, hey, look, we really can't issue loitering tickets anymore. We don't. They're saying they live here. They're friends of people that live here. We're just not going to do it. We're not going to issue loitering tickets anymore. And I think that's part of the reason why there was so much activity out of my building outside it, and probably led to that drive-by shooting. So I think the game has changed a little bit. So what I would like to see is some positive solutions, instead of kind of like getting on each property owner and saying, hey, fix the problem, because we're trying to fix the problem. I mean, we really are. I mean, what about what about a Avenues West sponsored security, guard? We all get some sponsorship. We put in some money, maybe each of the major properties, and we got a guy that can drive around. We can't just.
Excuse me, guys. With all due respect, the Near West Side partner area is kind of large, and we do have a high concentration of multi-unit apartment buildings. But there are apartment buildings that have the same amount of units that you guys' apartment buildings have that have no calls for service almost yearly. So there is something to be said about management and doing their due diligence and being on the spot. And I do also understand that you guys have made calls to MPD, and you don't believe that you're getting you're getting told that they're not writing tickets right now. This has been a tipsy-turvy type of year, but I do think that this warrants another conversation with us sitting down offline and trying to get together and figure out how we can move forward in the Near West Side partner area. And in lieu of time, because we got this meeting scheduled for 1 hour, I would like for us to move forward, but I do respect everything that both Kayla and Kasdorf is saying. And this is something that we really going to work hard on together. And I hope that, and I know that MPD will love to be a part of it, as well as Jessica, as well as MUPD as well.
Bobby.
Great. Sounds good, Bobby.
My fault for letting that get going. I didn't realize the time here.
No problem. It was a very interesting conversation and one that's well needed.
Right. You're right. This is not the time or the place. It'll be one of our goals for 2021 that we can jump into and deal with on separate from our meetings to see what we can resolve. But we do have several other properties that we want to get through here, so we're going to move on a little quickly. Next slide, please. 3345 West Highland Boulevard, calls for service.
It's gonna be 5 calls: robbery, drug dealing, battery, and 1 abuse.
What was the first one, officer?
Robbery.
Robbery. DNS has interior orders, violations, plus interior complaints.
Provide quick insight on that.
What was that, Bobby?
This is the Jamila property, correct?
Yeah, it is.
I was just wondering, did you want to provide any insight on those calls and services today?
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with the drug dealing. Drug dealing, is that what it was? I know that, and I talked to P.O. Wittenberger about this when we had our conversation on the 1st. We had a subject in unit 100 that had some severe mental health issues that we were working to try to get out of the building without having to actually file eviction. We were successful in doing so. She actually handed in keys yesterday. So I know that a lot of the 911 calls were coming specifically from her, whether or not she was actually listing her unit or I don't know if she was blocking numbers or what, but I know that she was a bulk of the issue. So I'm hoping now that she is no longer there, it will cease. I did get an email from District 3 as well, indicating that 301 has had some issues as well, but I just got that email this week. I haven't had a chance to address it yet, but I will be.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Kayla.
Thanks.
Next property. (3415-17) West Clybourne Street, calls for service.
Sorry, District 3.
Sorry, that wasn't on our list. We don't have that one.
Not on my list either.
Okay. That house should have been on the list. That was the error that on my part that came through later, and the reason that this house has been will make the list in January. I've gotten complaints from a couple residents that stay on the block, and that's complaining that this house has, is doing some potential drug dealing. And as you can see from the picture, the house is really not being maintained on the outside.
Okay. Next property.
Yep.
3205 West Juno, it appears, according to DNS, that this still might be a wrong address, and possibly 3203 West Juno, because it's not showing up in DNS. Officer Wittenberger, do you have anything on this property?
We have 0 calls for that address for the 3205.
So for you, it is a legit number or a legit address then?
Can you speak on that?
For if there's 0 calls, then I can't confirm or deny that, or like, you know, I can't say yes or no. What I could do is look at the property data though, map search and see if it is.
Okay.
So can
yeah.
we have the lady that the complaints were addressed about, but I believe the address is 3205. Her name is Kirsten Applegate.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Kirsten.
Hi.
Hey, Kirsten, is that the correct address for your property?
That is my property, and yes, the fighting, yes. Drug dealing, no. I have been being harassed, and I have had calls. I have been hurt in my house by the individual. I met somebody, and they were not good. And yes, there have been problems, but he has been arrested twice out of my house, and I do apologize to everybody for the nuisance. I've been in the neighborhood 30 years. My mother lives next door, and I know everybody down the street. I'm a little sad that nobody came over to check on me because he almost stabbed me to death on my mother's porch last week, and I just got a call that he was just released today on bail. So if I sound shaky, it's because I'm scared now, and I just want to apologize for all the problems.
Okay.
But the fighting, yeah, I was fighting to get him out, or fighting to protect my life. And it has been a nuisance in my world too. And hopefully there will be no more. I cannot believe he got out on bail. I just literally got the phone call through the Vine system. I have been dealing with the DA, and yeah, now I'm really nervous. And go ahead, guys. Sorry, my brain is.
No, I just want to interrupt you for a
I just found out he got out.
Is it possible that and this is for District 3 and Jessica, is it possible that you guys can connect with Kirsten?
Well,
it seems that she's
actually been really good. Hi.
Hi. I can put the district's email, and you're free to contact us. I'll put my phone number on there as well. Okay.
Okay. Because yeah, I'm shaking right now.
I believe you've spoken to an advocate at the DA's office.
I haven't. I've been trying to get a hold of them, but you know, it's phone tag. It's, you know how that goes.
Sure.
And
if you have problems, you can email the district. Otherwise, you should be able to get a hold of Gabby, who's listed as your advocate, and she's going to be the best person to keep you up to date.
I do not have a number that goes through. Do you have her number? That I might have wrote it down wrong because I tried calling her.
I can
just give in the private comments in the chat, in the private.
I will send the number that I have.
Great, thank you.
And
thank you.
And I think the one concern that I have is that I've gotten complaints from residents that calls were made and police was actually out there several times. And this is another indication that where people that live on the block see the police, but when the calls for service come up, there's no calls for service. So I don't know what we need to do or how this is happening, but this is a legitimate address.
It is legitimate. I'm
sorry to interrupt. It depends on if they're calling 3205 West Juno. Sometimes they were just call 32nd and Juno. Sometimes they call in whatever address that they think they like. You know what I mean? A roundabout. So if they're calling in that like 32nd and Juno, there's a fight. It wouldn't be at 3205 in our records. It would be 3200 West Juno. So that's
okay. Well, I actually have been the one that's called 911. My neighbor, my mother's roommate, my daughter has called.
Also, this only goes back to October 8th. I don't look for the whole. I don't know when you call.
Okay.
This is only calls from October 8th to today. I only do the last 30 days since the last meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, I could say since August, there's been a lot of calls because of this gentleman, Tyrone Trotter. And
so Since October 8th, though, you've called between October 8th and today.
No, I don't know about October. That could have been when I called when my mother was drunk.
You can follow up with me
Okay.
too. I put my information in the chat.
Okay,
Okay,
All right.
all right.
all right.
Email us after.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Next property. 4218 West Highland, calls for service.
Yeah, this is one that I was gonna ask Jessica to give an update on because I think this was boarded up, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't have this address on my list.
There has been.
Okay.
Has been a concern for us, and I think I did talk about it at our last landlord compact meeting. It has been boarded up. It is going through the in-rem proceedings with the city. We are hoping that, according to our update from our city attorney, that it should be in the city's hands early 2021, sometime in January. And then the city will be the official owner of that property. But in the interim, it's been boarded. We have had calls of individuals breaking into the boarding, and MPD has responded to those.
Thank you,
for that.
Jessica.
Thank you for that.
Next property. 1235 North 23rd Street, calls for service.
I see 0 here.
And no DNS. Next property.
I have 2 calls, battery and theft.
For 2501, you have 2 calls.
Yeah.
DNS has plumbing and cross connection inspections that are due. Next property. 3304 West McKinley Avenue, calls for service.
2 shots fired and noise nuisance. The tenants did move out. We recently did a walkthrough as well as Jessica.
Walkthrough, in fact, was just this week. And we were there with the owner, and the problem that those tenants are gone. The doors have been, locks changed, etc. So we did that just earlier this week.
Great. And then DNS has verbal advisory for cleanup. Bobby, did you have something?
Yeah, this house was connected with the previous slide, it being the same owner and family members that rented this house in 1235 North 33rd. And I was just wondering, did the owner mention the other property that had a lot of calls, with the neighbor?
No, we only did the walkthrough at this address. The owner did not address the other address.
Officer
Okay.
said that they're out of both.
Oh, they're out of both?
Yep.
Okay, thank you guys. Great work, really appreciate it. I know Ms. Long is gonna sleep better at night.
That's good. Next property. Okay. So nuisance businesses, we've got Family Dollar, 930 North 27th Street, calls for service.
2 calls, theft.
So we could provide just a little bit of an update. I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, Family Dollar had a hearing back to the city council. Well, the full council will be making a decision, but the license committee voted again to not renew their food license. Jessica was at the meeting, at the hearing rather. She could speak a little bit more in detail as to the legal part of it.
So we've been monitoring the situation for a while. So previously, Common Council decided not to renew Family Dollar's food dealer license. That was challenged in court. What the circuit court did while they were, going through that process, essentially, from my understanding from the city attorney, made a finding that Family Dollar needed more of an opportunity to cross-examine or ask questions of witnesses at that original licensing hearing, to fully further flush out exactly what the issues were and to give Family Dollar an opportunity to question those witnesses again. So that's why it was sent back to the license committee meeting that was on Tuesday afternoon. There was testimony taken. It was a little over 2 hours long. The individuals that spoke the first time then got to be asked questions by Family Dollar's attorney. So the license committee still recommended that the license be not renewed. If that's confirmed again through the comment council as a whole, it goes back into court, and essentially the judge then makes their decision based upon the entirety of the record. But that supplemental hearing before the license committee was to allow Family Dollar an opportunity to make a more complete record, question people that had previously spoken at the hearing. So back to court is essentially where we're at.
Thanks for the update, Jessica. Next property. 927 North 27th Street, Gare Bears, calls for service.
One call for battery.
And there's no DNS.
And there's no new updates from myself to make sure that Gary did put up the signs asking people to go to the side to smoke, but I haven't seen the signs up as he agreed to as of yet. I've been down for a while, so maybe they're up now. I just haven't had the opportunity to check, but I'll have more follow-up next year with Gare Bears.
Next property.
That's just yet.
Hey, Bobby, this is Harry from Family Dollar. I just wanted to let you guys know we were on if you had any questions or anything like that.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Feel free if you'd like to elaborate on any updates or things that you guys plan on doing to the Family Dollar.
So, everything that, was just mentioned, that's very accurate. We're continuing to work on our part in terms of, what updates to the facade and things of that nature that we, can do, what corporate wants to obviously do. We're still willing to do, our part and control some of this. So, obviously, first time being on this call, but just wanted to let everybody know. I know Bobby and Keith, they've got my contact information, but so for anyone on the call, feel free to reach out to me. I can get that information or requests into the proper hands, and just wanted to let everyone know I'm here for you, and hopefully we can get through this as smoothly as possible with, resolution for not only the near west side, but, the constituents, the community as a whole, and for Family Dollar as well. So thank you for your time. Just wanted to let you know we are on. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Harry. Really appreciate it, and for staying engaged with us through this process.
No problem.
2903 West Clybourne Street, calls for service.
0.
No DNS. Next property.
Yeah, next property.
The Glass Joint, 959 North 27th Street, calls for service.
One call, which was a threat. We did go there 2 days ago for a walkthrough with DOR. Their license expired in October, so they didn't have a license. So citations were issued and tobacco was confiscated.
Okay. Bobby, did you say you had something that on this?
No.
Oh.
I spoke with Jessica, and she had sent out an email informing us that they did do a walkthrough. So I just wanted MPD and Jessica to have the opportunity to say what happened during that walkthrough.
Jessica, are you still with us?
I am. Officer Rivera covered it. The Department of Revenue and the CP team went through there because their license to sell tobacco was not renewed. Those items were confiscated by the Department of Revenue. They are going to have to reapply for the license. And I have some calls into both the state and the city regarding that licensing process. So that's the updates we have.
Can I
So
ask you a
Jessica,
question? Go ahead, Bob.
go ahead. Now, I was just gonna ask, should the physical location be closed now, or are they open to sell other items?
They can sell other items as long as it's not tobacco. That's correct, right, Dorian?
That is correct. If you want to add in, the Department of Revenue did not take all their tobacco. They only took what they didn't have invoices for. So the stuff that they had invoices for, they were allowed to keep, but were advised not to sell it. That being said, if you guys get tips that they're selling it, let us know, because then we'd make another visit and confiscate it all. We also found a AK, an assault rifle basically behind the counter. And when asked about it, they said it was their security companies, but they couldn't give us a name, phone number, any identifying information for that security person. So that was taken and inventoried by us. And referring back to the calls, some of the threats and stuff were actually calls made to about their staff and their manager that was on site when we were there, about pointing guns at people and threatening them to leave the store. So now after looking at that, I'm happy we took that gun. And
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for that great work.
So maybe a question that I should probably know the answer to, but so when not having a license, and this just happened with the confiscation, when they go and reapply for a license, will this be on their record for selling tobacco without a license when they apply again?
on our part, yes, because we write a PA 33, which is a licensed premise report, which is what our license division gives then the committee. So it should be noticed that this happened.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Next property. 2336 West Wisconsin, Quick Pick Marks. Calls for service.
0.
Marquette has 5, 3 loitering, a trouble subject, and a panhandling.
Thank you, Officer Wickers.
Thanks, Tom. Plumbing and cross connection inspections are due at this location for DNS. Next property, please.
Officer, question about the Quick Pick. Officer Wickers, I know you guys field a lot of calls for this location. At some point, I'd like to talk with you and see how many calls these guys have had in a 30-day period to see if they'll be available, or to see where they fall on the nuisance status.
Definitely, yeah, we can definitely meet up.
Okay.
I'll send you an email.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the panhandling and loitering are considered nuisance calls. Is that correct? Jessica or Officer Winberger?
I do not believe that panhandling qualifies as a nuisance.
Yeah.
It doesn't, but the loitering does. That being said, we need those calls for service. So I don't know what calls Officer Wickers is getting, but yes, if those are involved and it was substantiated by the squad and the caller is a complainant, we can definitely work with that.
Oh,
Okay.
So loitering qualifies. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next property. 1202 West Highland Boulevard, the BP. Calls for service.
1, trouble with subject.
And there's no DNS.
I was informed that the graffiti has been removed and the dumping that was on the property that's owned by the gas station owner has been removed. However, there's a City of Milwaukee owned property adjacent to it where the dumping is was still present.
And you are correct on that. I was just there a few days ago.
Is it still present, Kent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, along with the other locations on 22nd in Wells City lot, and then the parking lot that I think Keith had pictures off of 23rd in Michigan, nothing has been removed in any one of those places.
Okay, that's something that we definitely follow up with John Yang from DNS. You on mute, Kent? No. You on mute.
I'm sorry.
There you
Next
go.
property, please. $2,500 West Wisconsin, the Citgo. Probably not going to be any calls for service, but humor me. Oh, it's.
I don't
I
have it.
think that'd be 2502.
Yeah, that's also an address for it as well. When I looked it up on record, it's 2500, 2502.
Oh, okay. I am seeing 0.
Yeah. Has anybody had contact, Bobby, with ownership with the political voting signs that are still up?
You know, I haven't had contact personally, but I'm not sure if Keith have had contact because I know this is a location that stays on Keith's radar. But I will follow up to see because if you go to the next slide about this property, they still have they got a lot of overgrown weeds and tires and things hanging around. They're really not maintaining it right now. So this is certainly something that's on our radar to reach out and do a little bit more investigation on to see if we could get some action from the property owner or manager.
Okay, all right. Next slide. Or next property, is that it for business? Nope. 901 North 27th Street, Kilbourne Market. Calls for service.
0.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
going
And I think this business was put on there due to, I mean, the area has a lot of loitering. I happen to know that Bobby comes out and he's there all the time. And from time to time, he asks his people to move around. But it's one of those corners that's really busy. And hopefully we could really get the loitering under control. Ken, did you have anything extra to add about this location?
Again, especially when we had that 7, 8, 9 days of warmer weather, the activity is just people hanging around on the side of the building, like you see in the picture, but times that by 2 or 3. It just seems to be all day long that this is going on at this location, along with possible prostitution. I had spoke with somebody that I was showing a property to, and he said he was propositioned as he drove around the block. So I think his interest level might have went down a little, but so definitely nothing's changed on this corner itself.
I would agree.
Is this our last business property?
This is that's another picture of what Kim was talking about the loitering, and the picture before that is still activity that's happening around that whole block. This is not the corner, but this is just a good idea of during the hot days. The actual picture with a gentleman standing in the doorway, that's in the rear of 911 North 27th Street, which is right next door. So there's some of the activities that we're talking about, some of our struggles in our fight that we hope that we can find a way, working with our partners at MPD, Community Prosecution Unit, CPU team, to figure out a way that we can get the loitering under control. This is absolutely ridiculous, and it's been going on for decades, to say the least.
Yep. So back on if this is the last business property. So back on the nuisance properties, on the end of my sheet here, we had 2803 West Kilbourne. Officer Winberger, do you have any calls for service at this location? Was that on your list?
I have 1 call for 911 abuse.
We'll come at.
And there's no DNS. And then there's one more at 2804-10 West Kilbourne. Do you have anything for that one, officer?
0 calls.
And then DNS had commercial alterations repair permit with COA on file and HPC approval. So it looks like that property is moving forward with their renovations.
I can give you some updates on Kilbourne if you guys wanted to hear about them. We're getting close to doing a lot of remodel work. We finally got a lot of approvals completed and stuff like that.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you're starting immediately?
Yeah, they did. I believe they completed the ramp, a wheelchair ramp last week. We got historic approved windows that were all approved, and those are finally, the order is finally in, so they should be installing them over the next couple of weeks. I got a pretty nice video camera system. I don't know what, if historic is going to block us from putting those out on the building, but maybe we can put them out and see. And then we should have a lot of work on the inside. I believe the permit for all the inside work, new electrical, new HVAC and everything is should all be starting over the next couple of months too. So that should,
Wonderful.
once we get people, kind of watch that property a little bit.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
One of the reasons that your property made the list is because of activity that's going on the outside of it. Are you aware of any of that when you guys are over there? Have you seen the guys that's standing around possibly doing illegal things?
Yeah, like if people kind of walk up and down that Kilbourne, and then like you were saying, right at the end of the street there where a lot of people kind of gather. So I think if they're kind of pushed away, they kind of wander over to a place that's maybe vacant or empty. So that might be why some people are going over there. I know some lady came and dumped a whole, like an entire house full of garbage in our front lawn. We called it in. Her name's clearly all over the stuff, but I don't know how you handle a situation like that. We obviously don't have video of her doing it, but I know that was kind of, that made everything look pretty ugly for a couple days.
Right. My suggestion would be if historic preservation has a problem with cameras on your building, to see whether or not there are any street poles or any other lighting poles that you could possibly get permission, I'm sure with the help of Near West Side, to install cameras on those poles, obviously probably remotely for you. But I would say that that would skirt around it being attached to the building, and you could still have video of your building. And just a thought.
Oh, that's a great idea. I didn't think that was allowed at all.
Well, you got to know somebody. Right?
That would be good.
All right. So that was the last two items, unless anybody else has anything as far as the properties. And then I'll let Bobby finish up here.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Okay, guys. Thanks for sticking with us this long. I know we're way over. So one of the final things is the Near West Side Partner Resident Survey. Please encourage your residents to take the survey. If you're a property manager or property owner, please take the survey yourself. Your feedback helps us moving forward. There's a scan me on there. This document is actually going to be on our website, and I can also send this around to everyone who signed in with an email address as well.
I want to, in closing, say thank you for the participation of all of you, because without your participation in hard work and efforts, we would not have a landlord compact, especially a landlord compact that has been running for over 20 years. Look forward to 2021 and the obstacles that will be ahead of us then, and some hopefully new changes. Our next meeting is, as you see, January 14th. And looks like we already from this meeting have a goal that we're going to work on 2021. We look forward to your contribution and any suggestions that would improve or things that you'd like to see as far as this meeting proceed through the year, and any other goals or requests. Again, without your participation and your hard work, we would not have a compact. So we will be off in December. Everybody stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that fun stuff.